Welcome! Today, we're going to explore a topic that often captures our imagination, yet remains deeply misunderstood: ritual behavior in criminal investigations. When we hear about unusual or disturbing crimes, our minds naturally try to make sense of the incomprehensible. We look for patterns, for meaning, sometimes even for signs of something supernatural. But what does criminal profiling, as a real investigative tool, actually tell us about these so-called ritualistic acts? Criminal profiling is an insightful tool, often seen in crime dramas, designed to help law enforcement understand the characteristics of an unknown offender by carefully examining their behavior at a crime scene. It's about looking at the clues left behind, not just physical evidence, but the way a crime was committed, to infer something about the person who did it. A central and often debated part of this analysis is the idea of ritual behavior, which, as we'll see, constantly blurs the line between established fact and popular myth. To truly grasp ritual behavior, we first need to understand a crucial distinction in profiling: the difference between an offender's modus operandi, or MO, and their offender signature. Think of the MO as the practical blueprint, the how-to manual of a crime. It's the methods, tools, and strategies an offender uses to successfully commit their act, minimize risk, and avoid getting caught. It's adaptive, meaning it can change and evolve as the offender gains experience. Now, the offender signature is something else entirely. These are the unique, personal elements of a crime that aren't strictly necessary for its commission, but fulfill specific psychological or emotional needs of the offender. It's the why behind the how. These signature behaviors are often consistent, reflecting the criminal's underlying psychology, and this is where actions that appear ritualistic frequently come into play. So, what do we mean when we talk about ritualistic crime? Generally, it refers to criminal activity that involves a deliberate, staged performance. These acts are carried out to fulfill what the perpetrator perceives as spiritual, supernatural, ideological, cultural, sexual, or psychological needs. But here's a key point. Sometimes these acts that look ritualistic can also serve very practical criminal purposes, like intimidating victims, manipulating co-conspirators, or eliminating rivals. The motivation isn't always as esoteric as it might first appear. Historically, criminal profiling has come a long way. Early pioneers like physicians George Phillips and Thomas Bond in the 1880s and psychiatrist James Russell in the 1950s made initial attempts to connect crime scene behavior to offender traits. Later, the FBI saw a significant evolution with figures like Robert Russler, John E. Douglas, and Ann Burgess. They developed the FBI's typological method, introducing concepts like the organized-disorganized offender dichotomy, a framework that, while widely recognized, has since been refined into more of a continuum, acknowledging the complexities of human behavior. More recently, academic approaches like investigative psychology, founded by David Cantor, have gained prominence. This method emphasizes deriving inferences from empirical, peer-reviewed research, rather than solely relying on investigative experience or intuition. It's a crucial shift towards a more scientific grounding for the field. The topic of ritual behavior in criminal profiling generates immense fascination, in part due to the inherent mystique surrounding unusual crimes. Our society's interest is often fueled by media portrayals, which frequently exaggerate the capabilities of profilers. This creates a blurred boundary between myth and reality, especially concerning ritual, often leading to misinterpretation and at times even widespread moral panics. Despite its utility as an investigative tool, criminal profiling, particularly when it touches on ritualistic elements, is a subject of ongoing controversy. One of the biggest critiques centers on the scientific validity and reliability of many profiling studies. Often, they've relied on anecdotal evidence or subjective opinions rather than robust empirical validation. The field has been criticized for inconsistent methodologies and terminology, making it susceptible to cognitive biases, like confirmation bias, where we interpret new evidence as confirmation of existing beliefs, and hindsight bias, where we believe we knew it all along. Experts stress that intuition-based profiling should not be treated as a definitive predictive science. Perhaps the most damaging controversy is the misinterpretation of ritual and the resulting moral panics. A stark example is the Satanic panic of the 1980s and 90s. This period saw widespread, unsubstantiated claims of satanic ritual abuse, fueled by books and sensationalized media. Subsequent studies, however, found no evidence of organized satanic cults involved in widespread abuse. This panic tragically diverted attention from actual child abuse and significantly damaged the credibility of professionals involved. There's also a persistent tendency to attribute unusual crimes with ritualistic elements to supernatural causes. This tendency can seriously impede our understanding of the real, complex human motivations at play. Many behaviors that appear ritualistic are in reality performative acts. They are designed to intimidate victims, generate fear, attract media attention, or serve as tactics within criminal organizations. For instance, what might look like a ritualistic removal of body parts could in fact be part of a profit-driven scheme exploiting others' magical beliefs. Another challenge facing law enforcement is the lack of standardization for defining and categorizing ritualistic crime. Without consistent guidelines, it's difficult to accurately identify, report, and investigate these cases. There's also a significant need for more empirical research to help differentiate between genuinely sacred or symbolic motivations and more secular criminal objectives in homicides with ritualistic characteristics. As mentioned earlier, media portrayal versus reality continues to be an issue. Popular culture frequently distorts the reality of criminal profiling, depicting profilers as having almost clairvoyant abilities, offering highly specific details about an unknown perpetrator. In truth, profiles offer broad guiding parameters to help narrow investigative leads, not a magic formula for specific identification. Finally, we must acknowledge the concerns around bias and stereotyping. There's a significant potential for profiling, especially when dealing with ambiguous, ritualistic elements, to inadvertently reinforce existing prejudices. This can lead to serious judicial errors, wrongful criminalization, and the stigmatization of individuals or entire groups. The field also navigates an uneasy relationship between law enforcement practices, which have historically relied on intuition and experience, and academic psychology, which demands empirical rigor. This tension highlights the ongoing need for more statistical and research-based methods. Looking ahead, the future of criminal profiling, particularly concerning ritual behavior, points towards a continued push for greater scientific rigor and standardization. The growing influence of investigative psychology suggests a move away from purely intuition-based approaches towards more empirically validated, research-driven methods. Addressing the current lack of standardization in defining and classifying ritualistic crimes is absolutely crucial for improving investigation and reporting across the board. By understanding the realities, we can move closer to truth and away from sensationalism, ensuring that the pursuit of justice is informed, fair, and effective. Thank you for joining me today.